Preaching, images and imagination, work and play, liturgy and politics. That's my new book in 7 words, if you don't count the ands. My book, So Fill Our Imaginations, the work and play of a year of preaching, published by Wipf and Stock in Eugene, Oregon. Preaching, images and imagination, work and play, liturgy and politics. There are lots of books out there on preaching. I mean a lot, really a lot. There are collections of sermons. There are memoirs by preachers. There are textbooks and other guides on how to preach or how to preach better. My book is distinctive in weaving all 3 threads together. A series of 12 actual sermons that make their way steadily through the calendar of a single church year, wrapped in a memoir around their composition and delivery, reception and subsequent agency, with theological reflection on the contexts and content of preaching woven in. You have before you a personal theological and spiritual memoir, to be sure. For the resources of feminist, womanist, and process theologies propelled these sermons of mine across the 2016-17 church year, lectionary year A. But the memoir aspect of the book has as much to do with St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Seattle, Washington, its people, sacred spaces, liturgical customs, and homiletical expectations, as it does with my own life. And wider still, the multi-layered realities of neighborhood, city, country, and world show up throughout. So the book is also a social, political, economic memoir. Reflections upon the work and play of preaching across a turbulent and supersaturated year of life in the world, featuring parish departures and resilience, a local housing crisis, the inauguration of Donald Trump as president, with attendant social, political, economic issues, both national and global. ISIS, Iraq, and Syria, displaced people at the southern border, sexual violence against women, race in America, disparities of wealth and privilege and access. I hope accompanying me on my year of preaching will help you more imaginatively compose and deliver sermons of your own, if you happen to be a preacher yourself. Or if not, help you receive sermons by the preachers in your life and community more actively and attentively. I believe my book will allow you to compare 2 different modes of preaching: a traditional sermon by a lone preacher standing in the pulpit versus remarks for an emergent community's shared homily, with preacher, other ministers, and assembly all seated around the altar and across from one another in a circle, rubbing shoulders, and invited to respond orally to the preacher's words. And I'd love it if reading the book encourages you to entertain the gifts of godly play, Montessori-based program of children's Christian formation for adult spirituality, theology, and preaching. Because at its most imaginative, the adult work of preaching becomes child's play. Other books lean into the working preacher, I raise up the playful preacher. Verbal and visual and tactile images carry my sermons. Walking makes the way, straying beyond fences of hatred and control, and staying beyond. A broken porcelain bowl mended with gold, a 7-foot tall assemblage of kimchi pots no longer buried by fear. An icon of the great faith of the Canaanite woman, great enough to convert Jesus. Every single one of us, a little baby Sophia, living and moving and having our being in the universal womb of God, our mother, all to fill corners and empty spaces in our imaginations. Please buy my book, read the book, like it and share it. I wonder what you'll see and hear and think. What will strike you, draw you in, or bump you out? I invite your responses. Thanks.